I'm going to teach you guys the easiest way to pattern draft a casual sleeve. It's going to work for stuff like this French chore coat, these t-shirts that I made, hoodies, jackets, anything that doesn't have ease, like in a suit. First, you're going to want to have your torso pattern sketched out. A pattern is the outline to the garment that you're going to make. I learned that not a lot of people knew that because I'm selling patterns for pants that I previously made on my Instagram, and people thought the patterns were the actual pants. After you have your back and your front sketched out, you want to take note of these. The armhole length, and you get that by measuring along the inside of the pattern along the line, just like this. 9 7/8, and I take note of that right here. The next thing you're going to want to find out is the cap height. To do this, you want to have some extra paper and then draw a line that follows the shoulder angle. So I got this line right here. You're going to want to find the line that is perpendicular to this line and hits this bottom armhole point. So I'm just dragging this across the line, trying to find, as you can see here, it lines up perpendicular with this shoulder seam and hits the bottom of the armhole. Take note of this by drawing a line straight across. Now I'm going to take note of this measurement. From here, the shoulder seam, to the bottom of this line is 4.5. That is your cap height for the front. The next measurement we're going to take is the bicep measurement for the front. And from this point on the line, I'm going to say it's 7. So we got your armhole, cap, and bicep. We're going to take note of these 3 measurements, repeat the process for the back, and then average the measurements. So I tallied up all the numbers, I got all the averages, and now let me tell you guys the relationship between cap and bicep. So let's say this line right here, projected by the ruler, is the bicep. This line right here would be your cap. The higher the cap you have, the smaller the bicep you have. So a garment that has a higher cap has a more fitted shape because the bicep is smaller, whereas something like a t-shirt has a wider bicep and a shorter cap, giving it a more relaxed look. For a more casual garment, you want the bicep to be somewhere between 4-5 inches. I usually like to make it 3.5 to around 4.5. I created a guideline of the length of the sleeve that I want. Mine is about 22 3/4 inches, with this being the top of it. With the averages that I have and the knowledge that I just told you guys, I'm going to create out my guidelines. So like I said, I don't like my cap to be 5 inches. That's a little too high for me. I'm going to make it around 4.25. So 4.25 inches from the top, this would be my bicep line. I'm just going to extend this all the way out with a straight perpendicular line to this line. And remember how I changed the cap from 5 to 4.25? I took away 3/4 of an inch. So I'm going to add that to the bicep because there's a ratio between the bicep and the cap. And if you take away from the cap, you have to make the bicep bigger in order for the sleeve to fit in the armhole. I took away 3/4 from the cap. I divide that by 2, you get 3/8. So I'm going to add 3/8 total to the bicep. So it's going to be 7 3/8 instead of 7. Okay, so I mark 7 3/8 here, 7 3/8 here. Next, what I'm going to want to do is remember how I averaged the armhole. You're going to want to get the measurement from here. So my armhole average was 10. I want it to hit from, see how it says 10 right here? I'm going to swing the ruler till it hits the line that suffices the 10. So my ruler is at the 10 right here, and it hits the line at this point. So I'm going to make another dash right there and do the same thing to the other side. I got my 7 3/8 and my 10. Same thing on the other side. What I'm going to do now is find the distance between these 2 points and find the midpoint, and that's going to be right there. Mark that on both sides, midpoint, and now we connect this point to the top of the cap. Now you have this beautiful triangle going on. And for a casual shirt, you want to separate the sleeve into 4 different segments. Half, quarter, quarter. Same thing on the other side. And since this is one of a more moderate cap height, we're going to use these measurements to create our guidelines. I separated these into 4 segments. Let's mark this the front, this the back. And going off the diagram that I showed you, the front, this point goes up 3/4 of an inch. This point gets 3/16 of an inch up, and this point is 1/2 inch. Okay, so 3/4, 3/16, 1/2 inch down. Separate it into 4 different segments. This goes up 5/8 of an inch. This goes up 3/16 of an inch, and this goes down 3/8 of an inch. This next part, I like to use a French curve, but if you don't have that, try and loosely connect these parts. It doesn't exactly have to be perfect through each part. Just whatever makes sense and looks smooth. Another tip that I like to do, I like to mark 3/8 from the center point on this side and on this side. It just helps me create another guideline. And this is what I mean by it doesn't have to hit every point perfectly. This is fluid, it's cool, and if you beg to differ, look at my clothes, it works, bruh. That was cocky, I'm sorry, I don't mean that. Same thing for the back. It doesn't have to exactly be perfect, but whatever makes sense and is fluid. Next, remember how the front armhole and the back armhole are two different measurements? I like to do is subtract the smaller one from the bigger one. That's going to be a 1/4. Divide this by 2. It's going to be an 1/8. I'm going to move this an 1/8 towards the smaller armhole. So the front armhole was an 1/8 smaller. I'm going to move this point an 1/8 here, and that's going to be my shoulder notch. The last thing to do is to mark 3 inches from this point along here on the front, and then 3 inches on the back, and then a 1/2 inch. So it's going to be marking it at 3 and then 3.5. The reason you have this 3-inch notch and this 3 and 3.5 notch is to differentiate which is the back, which is the front. So you have 3 notches. These two, this one, and this notch. Next, you might be wondering, do I walk my sleeves? No. I never do. But the hard part is done. The last part that you need to do, figure out how big you want the armhole opening to be. Connect it from this point all the way to wherever that point may be. And then add your seam allowance. And you are done with the sleeve, my friend. Congrats. The sleeve is honestly one of the most difficult parts in my opinion. Different sleeves call for different patterns, different cap heights, different bicep widths. So have fun with it. Start off small. Don't get too caught up on the small things. Be patient with yourself. And remember, it's just clothes. Doesn't matter. You look cool regardless, bro. Alright. Peace!